Hello, Jesse here at the Total Extinction YouTube channel. Now I had to make a choice for this video, which is called Controlled Environments versus the Wild, and the subject is endangered species and the protection of them. I had to make a choice whether I wanted to put this video on the Total Extinction YouTube channel or the Arcology Group YouTube channel. So if you go to the main page of this channel, and you go on the right hand side and it says featured channels, you should be able to find a link to the Arcology Group. And if you go to www.thearcologygroup.com, you should be able to find links to all the different channels here. The subject, controlled environments versus the wild, I'm talking about saving an endangered species. Should the emphasis be on getting the endangered species into a controlled environment, or saving their original habitat? Now, you've heard everybody and their brother talk about the need to save the rainforest and save the whales, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. We have a situation, however, that the wild of planet Earth is under siege from all manner of pollution and habitat destruction. And also biodiversity, you have animals and plants and fungi and bacteria going from one habitat into one they've never been in before, and just changing the entire food web and throwing it out of whack, throwing it into a tizzy. So now I've been looking up different groups, and I'll talk about different groups as we go along, and certainly there are great strides being made to protect specific habitats, specific places on planet Earth where there are endangered species, especially where they're critically endangered, and that's the last place on Earth where they are alive in the wild, and we want to protect that, absolutely. But we haven't heard too much about making sure that the endangered species also are rescued into a controlled environment where they can breed safely and successfully, making sure that there's no chance they go extinct. So we have a pretty long history of animals that are quote-unquote extinct in the wild, but they still have breeding pairs in zoos and aquariums. And so this topic I want to talk about additionally, but I want to just introduce the subject and get the gears turning here in your mind, and we're looking forward to feedback. What do you think? Should the greater emphasis be on rescuing the animals in the wild, or is it too little too late, and we should be emphasizing on getting the animals basically into the ark? So you remember Noah's Ark, of course, and so the Arcology Group. Now, arcology is a kind of a building that is a blend of architecture, right, building science, and ecology, which is earth science and ecosystem science. And so what is a building that is ecological in design is placing its emphasis on rescuing a certain number of plant and animal species in addition to the human species, living all in one place successfully, in a healthy manner, in a sustainable manner. So that's what arcology is, and it's also pretty similar to the word ark, like Noah's Ark, where you make sure to rescue some of every kind of animal on Earth, and the birds, etc., and then they can survive any tragedy, in that case, a deluge, a flood. So obviously we could breed all the animals on Earth and it would come to some expense. And you could compare the expense of protecting the existing habitat and cleaning up the environment from where it is to more pristine levels. So you can compare it on an economic level. And then, of course, politics. What happens if the leverage is taken away that, on the one hand, you have, we got to protect a certain wild habitat. If we don't, they'll go extinct, okay? And they try to use that. There's groups out there. They try to use that as leverage to change public opinion, public outcry, public outreach, and also get people to spend their dollars differently. Sometimes they want to try to get people to boycott certain companies that are encroaching on the land and get mass uproar about poaching. That's great. We want mass uproar to stop poaching and stop the slash and burn. And we want mass outreach in order to get people to care more about the environment and protect those sacred spaces out there in the wild. Those folks, however, might not be so happy, might not be so pleased if they would lose their leverage of, if you don't protect this habitat, they'll go extinct, if we end up breeding the animals from that habitat in a controlled environment. They might not be so happy. On the other hand, you get lots of folks with lots of money who would say, you know what, I will give some money to place those animals into a controlled environment where I know for sure for my such and such investment that they definitely will survive. And I'm not going to spend a certain amount of money to protect an acre rainforest and there's a flood and they got all washed out and didn't have flood insurance, etc., etc. So there's a certain amount of interest I'm sure people have to be able, oh, if I go and put them into a zoo or aquarium, then I can go see them. Compare it to out in the wild, and they'll say you can't go out there even look at them. Well, it's not going to attract so much attention. So you have arguments on both sides. But really, I think what's going to go down here is the argument over leverage. Who will lose leverage or gain leverage? Will the corporations and other folks who might pony up big bucks to put the animals in a controlled environment? People say, I don't want them to have that leverage. I don't want them to be looking better in the public eye. Will they really put that interest ahead of the animals, making sure that they don't go extinct? So I think we might be able to hit a sweet spot in here somewhere where we can continue to elevate consciousness about protecting the wild spaces and ensure that the animals don't go extinct by breeding them in a controlled environment. So we're trying to start this conversation here, hit that sweet spot. So we've got totalextinction.org. Of course, obviously, total extinction is the horrendous concept that the entire Earth might go extinct. This is the 6th extinction event as they number the great extinctions in the history of our planet. As we can tell from the fossil record, we're currently in the 6th extinction event. And we know this one has a lot to do with human beings and our impact on the environment. A lot of folks want to talk about climate change. Well, there are maybe 10 different things just as important as climate change as how human beings impact the environment. And of course, I don't necessarily agree that human beings are more impactful on the climate than the sun, the variations in the output of the sun. We can have lots of other discussions about that. One of the concepts I talk about on their ecology group is all-purpose environmentalism. That we want to talk about climate science? Great. Talk about climate science. Talk about lowering our impact on the environment? Great. But we have maybe 10 times as things just as important as carbon output as far as the human impact on the environment. And we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket and get everybody spend all of their energy just to reduce their carbon footprint to find out they've got to do this, that, and the other thing and say, we're tired of it. We've got to have a balanced approach. We've got to make sure we can get that sweet spot of protecting the environment the most and keeping the human economy growing so people feel as though they've got time and energy left over for the environment. Not everybody places it at a high priority, and we've got to get them on board too. So, starting the conversation, trying to hit that sweet spot, working on it here. TotalExtinction.org is the environmental charity. I'm also an electronic music artist, released under the name Total Extinction. For that, I have the website TotalExtinction.club. Thinking about electronic music being played in the club. I want to use the electronic music and outreach through the music industry, try to get people on board to help with the environmental charities at .org. We also have www.thearcologygroup.com. That is the overall, we'll call umbrella organization for all my different efforts here, saving the world, entertaining people, and helping people get along. Thanks for your time. My name is Jesse Ryan Jensen. I'm your host here. Hope you hit the subscribe and hit the bell. Look forward to your comments and your help. Have a nice day.